All right, let's get this meeting called to order again. Come on in, folks. We're about ready to go. By the way, that was pretty nice this morning. You know, just sitting here in the room and the horses are out walking or running around. It's just a great place to watch the races. And then upstairs, there's another formal dining room where you can sit. But this is a buffet situation during the day. And then on the floor above this, there's a kind of a proper restaurant. And many of the people that have boxes, there's the box seat is right over there, so there's a walkway. They can walk over from the boxes, come over here, grab some air conditioning, sit down, and then on top of that is sky boxes and stuff like that. So it's a three-tiered deal here, and I think it's a really great addition to the track. You know, they're constantly, Saratoga's always been upgraded over the years, and I think this is a really, really good addition to the joint. So once again, we want to thank Carolyn and her group for the agents and advisors panel. Up next is our panel on thoroughbred ownership. And before we do that, we'd like to recognize the Saratoga stable. If you want to, the etymology of that, if you remember a horse called Funny Side, a bunch of the guys were from a little town on Lake Erie called Sackett's Harbor. And then the other partners were from the city of Saratoga, so they combined it and made it Saratoga Stable. And they had more fun when they had Funny Side. And they used to come to the track to the Kentucky Derby in a yellow school bus. And they rocked and rolled on that thing. And it was just a great fun ride. So it says here for me, Tom, please deliver the following commercial in confidence-building voice, particularly when you say the name Saratoga Stable. So, and by the way, I am available for voiceover work. They say lightning doesn't strike twice. At Saratoga Stable, we're proving them wrong with wins in the Preakness, the Belmont, the Kentucky Derby, and the Travers. Saratoga Stable is bringing real success to our racing syndicate. And Saratoga offers more than just ownership in name. All Saratoga Stable owners get full thoroughbred ownership with licensing privilege throughout the country, paddock and backstretch access, help with race day tickets, exclusive for members and events, and more. We bring the sport of kings to you without charging a king's ransom. Saratoga Stable, we are New York bred. It's not bad, man. And again, I am available for all voiceover work. Thoroughbred ownership brings people from all walks of life to the sport of kings. The next panel of experts will share success stories as well as the struggles that are part of the day in and day out part of ownership. You also sometimes have to deal with sloppy tracks. If you'd like to turn around and look out that way, welcome to the annual festival of heat, humidity, and rain that can be Saratoga. From claiming owners to graded stakes owners, anyone can be a thoroughbred owner, and you never know, you just might wind up living the dream. So it's my pleasure to introduce the woman at the helm of the thoroughbred ownership panel, our moderator. She's a TV host, analyst, and reporter for the New York Racing Association. You've seen her on the popular show America's Day at the Races, and she's shown her prowess as a paddock reporter for Saratoga Live and for Fox Sports Live. She's a native of Connecticut. In fact, as I recall, she was Miss Connecticut Not once, but twice. She founded the nonprofit Racing for Home over a decade ago, and that's an organization that is dedicated to retraining and rehoming off-track thoroughbreds for new careers after racing. Please welcome me, and joining Acacia Courtney Clement. That's a lot of C's.
Thank you so much, Tom. Such a nice intro. As always, really happy to be here with all of you today. And throughout my career in television, I've met a lot of different owners. I think I have chased down all of the ones on our panel here for an interview at some point, and sometimes in weather like this as well. And always appreciate them being so accommodating. So I'm pleased to tell you that the 4 thoroughbred owners that'll be joining us here today are not unlike you. They've come to this sport by very different walks of life, different cities, different occupations, and from a variety of backgrounds. But one thing they have in common is their unquestionable love for the sport, and that truly is what unites all of us in this great sport of thoroughbred horse racing, their love for the thoroughbred athlete. Let's bring them all out, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, our panelists. Get situated here. We'll meet the individuals who'll be giving us a little insight on what it's like to own thoroughbred racehorses, starting with our first panelist, who is the founder of Off the Hook, a breeding, racing, and sales company that has developed and campaigned dozens of graded stakes winners, most notably Breeders' Cup and Eclipse Award winner Informed Decision. He's the president of the New York Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association. Please welcome Joe Applebaum. Next up, this panelist worked for Xerox, Eastman Kodak, and ESL Federal Credit Union before she began a 30-year career in the thoroughbred industry. She's the owner of Song Hill Thoroughbreds and has campaigned Rufino, Tomasi, and Seratalto, to name only a few. Please welcome Tina Bond. Our next panelist is the operating manager of Sakatoga Stable. You learned a little bit about them from Tom. Since 1995, serving as the racing manager for more than 30 racehorses, including Kentucky Derby and Preakness winner Funny Side, and Belmont and Travers winner Tis the Law. Please join me in welcoming Jack Knowlton. And finally, he's been the president and co-owner of Centennial Farms for over 30 years and has campaigned such elite thoroughbred athletes as Rubiano, Colonial Fair, Corinthian, and Wicked Strong. Please welcome Don Little. All right, we'll get started. We have a terrific group in here today, and we'll get right into it with our first question. So our business is unique in that thoroughbred owners really come from every walk of life. Can each of you talk about your path to ownership, why it's so appealing, and maybe some of the people that you've met along the way? Maybe Tina, we'll start down the end with you.
Well, I married into the sport, so we're from the Finger Lakes area, and I met Jim when he was there. We had a farm, small farm there, and it just kind of grew and grew, and his career took off, and he moved his tack to the New York Racing Association downstate, and he's enjoyed a lot of success, and it's truly a sport that the horses can take you anywhere. We've been to Dubai, we've been to Japan. I got to dance with Burt Bacharach at the inaugural Dubai World Cup, and that would have never happened without the horses. So we're very blessed. Both of our boys are involved as assistant trainers, and the horses just give us so much, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful life.
Sure. At the 2002 Travers, there was a $200,000 carryover going into the pick six. Me and 4 friends hit the pick six that day. We didn't have the only ticket, sadly, but we made a nice 6-figure score. About 3 months later, we claimed our first horse. 2 years after that, I bought a farm and started pinhooking. Not unlike most of the owners I know in the game today, they started out as fans. They started out as gamblers, fans, and people who enjoy the culture here. And I'm really no different.
That's a good story. But
Well, to Joe's point, I started out as a gambler, enjoyed the game. I actually went to my first horse race at Vernon Downs, a standardbred track, right after I graduated from college, and got involved in standardbreds. About 10 years over at the harness track, headed up a small syndicate that had some success for about 10 years. And in 1994, we sold our last couple horses, and I thought, well, I'm kind of out of horse racing. And many of you probably have heard the story. I'll quickly tell you that Memorial Day, I went back up to my hometown in Sackett's Harbor, and used to do that traditionally. Memorial Day weekend, barbecue, beer, and one of my former classmates said, why don't we buy a Thoroughbred? And I said, well, I know a trainer. Everybody put up $5,000, so we got $30,000, and we'll give it a try. And lo and behold, about a week later, and I never thought I'd get this call, one of the guys called and said, well, we're in. We want to do this. And we bought our first Thoroughbred for $22,000, a New York bred. Tom told you how we got our stable name. Our colors were our high school colors. And 8 horses later, we win the Kentucky Derby with a horse named Funnyside that we paid $75,000 for as a 2-year-old. And as Tom said, kind of our fame became the fact that we went from the hotel to the track in a yellow school bus. So then, again, we have the great fortune many years later, 17 years later after Funnyside, I guess that's the locus, what they do, and Tiz the Law comes along, and we had the second thrill of a lifetime. Instead of 10 partners that we had in Funnyside, we actually had 35 people involved in Tiz the Law. And you look outside on the big screen and you can see that Tiz the Law, being a stallion for Coolmore, is still getting a lot of play. We're excited about him being a stallion. Funnyside was a gelding, so we didn't have that opportunity. The nice thing was that we got to run him for 6 years. And Tiz the Law, unfortunately, we only had 7 races over 2 years, but he is a stallion now. And what this has done for me, I got to meet Leroy Neiman. He painted Funnyside, which was just a tremendous thrill. Mayor Bloomberg had a reception at Gracie Mansion the night before the time that we were going for the Triple Crown, and it rained about 5 inches that day. I'll never know what would have happened without that. And just a tremendous opportunity, and brought a lot of people along with me in Sackatoga to the biggest day in racing, being at the Kentucky Derby, and then winning at Travers here in our hometown with Tiz the Law was tremendous as well.
Well, I got in through family and just the love of the sport. I have a picture. I actually was looking at a picture on my phone yesterday from, I think I was probably 8 months old, in diapers, sitting on the back of a horse with my father holding my leg in his polo mallet. And I was born into it. Dad had his first racehorse when he was 16 years old. He galloped it on the family property in Ipswich, Massachusetts, and ran that first race at old Great Barrington Fair, filly by the name of Glad Halliday. So patience is important, because his first start, came out of the gate, took a right turn, dumped the jockey, and ran over the fence. So for the first experience of the littles in racing was not the greatest, but this year is our 40th anniversary. We've been doing this since 1982, and the purchasing team that we have is still with me today. The same veterinarian, the same woman that runs our farm in Virginia. The old motto, don't mess with success. Well, here we are 40 years later, and You know, I had different opportunities through my life in horses. I played professional polo for 15 years, but you know, when I worked with a veterinarian who does select the horses with us, my senior year in high school at the Aiken Training Center as his veterinary assistant, I realized this is something that I wanted to make a career out of. And through the team that we put together, the trainers that we work with, my partners that have been loyal for as many years, you know, being in the Kentucky Derby, not winning it yet, you know, winning races like the Whitney, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, you know, it's just an excitement like no other sport. And in terms of the people that you can meet, as Tina says, these horses will take you everywhere. Being based in Boston, we have a little bit of a sports fan base there that's second to none. And when Wicked Strong ran in the Derby, Suffolk Downs had their largest wagering pool in 21 years. And 80% of the tickets went on Wicked Strong. Unfortunately, they didn't cash them, but they got a souvenir. That's the way I look at it. So, you know, it's, you know, meeting Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Bobby Orr. I mean, the Boston's, you know, it's just a great, great business. And the relationship you build and you keep throughout your life and the stories that you can tell through this business are second to none.
Just some amazing stories from each of our panelists of how they've gotten to this point. And I think the overarching theme is that you never really know where that start is going to come from, and you never know when the next good horse is going to come from. And that brings me to our next question, which is about talking about winning a claiming race versus a graded stakes. Some people have said it's a different feeling, and maybe Joe, will start with you and whoever wants to chime in here. Is it much of a difference winning perhaps a lower level race versus getting up to that graded level?
Sure. I'm pretty sure, even on this panel, I've won the widest range of races of anyone. I've won $3,500 claimers at Louisiana Downs, okay? And I've won a grade 1. For me, there's no difference at all. Obviously, there's monetary differences, but you just want to win. You're in this game to be competitive and to play through your equine athletes. But I don't find there's much difference at all. Everyone, the whole team is just excited to be successful.
Yeah, I think, Joe, that's so right, because, you know, I think it's like 80% of the races in this country are claiming races. You know, so you're going to get in, you're going to be involved in that level, and as you said, winning is the best part of this business. And I can remember, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago, we ran 2 horses here, both in claiming races. Both of them won, and that was almost as exciting as coming second in the Travers. Not winning the Travers, but second in the Travers, because we missed it by that much. But anyways, you know, it's part of the game, and it's a major part of the game. And it's, as Joe said, it's about winning and having fun. You know, this is an experienced business. It's a sport that you got to enjoy and go and do with friends, and, you know, there's nothing like it.
I totally agree with what Don said. You know, in any race that we have, the adrenaline rush when they're in the starting gate and when they're coming down the stretch, particularly if you feel you've got a shot to win, is like no other. So there's a similarity there. On the other hand, we've been extraordinarily fortunate to be on the biggest stage twice, once winning, once second, and then in races like the Travers. There is an added excitement when you get to that level, believe me.
And Tina, on to the next question, since we're talking about graded stakes, how do you know that a horse has what it takes to be good enough to compete at that level?
They're going to show you. They're going to give you, there's certain horses that are in a different league. They have an air about them. And it's just, you have to be a good steward. The trainer has to be a good steward to bring them and get them to that level. Going back to what they said, though, it is thrilling to win even a claiming race. However, when you've bred one and raced one, and you have a filly like Giacosa that comes and wins here in a stake race, there's nothing that can replace that. It's just totally amazing. So from what we do from ground zero and bring them here, it's so rewarding. But I think that, like I say, to manage her and to manage all of them, you just have to bring out the best of them, and they're going to show you who's got that desire. When you go to the sale, you can't measure. You can measure everything. You can measure hearts. You can have the vets. You can do the scoping. You can look at the x-rays, but you can't measure the desire.
And we often hear about spending money for graded stakes, quality horses. Jack, you have a good example of horses that maybe didn't necessarily need to break the bank to find one to be of that quality.
No, we've been very fortunate. The two, what I'll call, really good horses we've had, we purchased Funny Side as a 2-year-old in training for $75,000, and Tis the Law we bought here at the New York Bred Yearling Sale for $110,000. Both of those horses were first crop sires, and we had good discussion in the prior panel about first crop sires. I can tell you that Sakatoga Stable is all in on first crop sires, and next year with Tis the Law, when we get to see his horses in the sales, I think we're going to be bullish again on that.
Yeah, Jack, I mean, I agree. The first crop sires, the other panel discussed, about sire power. We've been fortunate enough. We bought yearlings out of the first crop at Danzig, Private Account, Fabiano. In the horses we bought out of those their first crop, they went on to be stakes winners, and we helped make those stallions. But Centennial has a price range that we felt and feel today gets you a good enough pedigree and a confirmation where if they're successful, they will have a very strong sire value at the end of a successful racing career. But again, our Belmont winner cost $110,000 here, Colonial Affair. And, Rubiano, our spring champion, he was $650. Wicked Strong was $485, Rocketry was $4. So it did, and this year was a perfect example, Rich Strike. The bottom line is, like any professional sport that you're involved in, you have to have a farm team, and the farm team is the meat and potatoes of the industry. There's so many people involved in this business that have a small farm, that they're going to breed the next Kentucky Derby winner, and those are the guys we want to support. So as Jack said, you can get those horses, and it gives everybody hope. We're in a business of hopes and dreams, and you've got to realize that, and you've got to be comfortable with your investments. And when you hit, enjoy it, because it doesn't happen all the time. And, have fun with it, feel comfortable with the investment that you're making, and go out and have fun.
I take a little different approach. I typically never buy first-year sires. They're a premium price. Sorry to all the Kentucky farms out there who are sponsoring this event. But I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, we bought a weanling at the New York Bred sale here for $20,000. He's by Mucho Macho Man. Anyone remember him? Hey, this is a racehorse, Mucho Macho Man. He danced every dance. He could run. What didn't he have? Much pedigree. Okay? So his stallion career has been very successful if you look at him from production numbers. Okay? What it isn't so successful is commercially, right? They're not making a lot of money selling his seasons. But that's an opportunity for you as the buyer, right? Is to buy someone who can produce for you on the racetrack as well. I think his stud fee for most of the time was about $15,000, $12,500. He's producing at the level that a $50,000 sire is. So why would you pay $50 when you can pay $12,500, right? So, excuse me, the roundabout of this is opening Friday. The horse that we bought as a weanling, and I do this as a business, that we then resold about 2 years later, 18 months later, to Dean Reeves. Dean raced Mucho Macho Man. There's a horse named City Man who won the Grade 3, I think it's called the Forbidden Apple now, won the Forbidden Apple here. It's a second graded stakes winner. He's a killer New York bred and can take on other guys. So I'm always looking for value, right? I want to stay in the game as long as possible. I want to keep my money going as long as possible. That's how I find value.
talking about finding value, and maybe can pick up where you left off there, Joe, with claiming horses. For people that are interested in getting a little bit kind of quicker action versus waiting for a young horse, you can claim a horse and then run that horse back in just a few weeks. What are some of the positives and maybe downsides of claiming horses?
Well, I think there's a lot of positives we've really done, especially in New York, and now with HISA, you're going to see rolled out nationally. So in the old days, not even that old ago, but 10 years ago, if you claimed a horse and he broke down on the racetrack or she broke down on the racetrack, that was your horse, regardless. So now we've put in all sorts of rules in the last couple of years, most importantly, the void claim rule. Meaning, not only if the horse breaks down or gets injured on the track, but even comes back to the test barn after the race and is lame, that horse is going back to the original owner. So what's that done? Our trainers really didn't like it, and it was a big change in our program here. But if you go to the NYRA website and you look at the claim report that's put up daily, the claiming in New York is bonkers. You can't even claim a horse. There'll be 5, 10, 15 people in on anything that's decent. And I think that's tied directly to the void claim rule, because now you have confidence in what you're purchasing in a race, where previously you had a little less confidence. And I will tell you, this was not a popular rule, right, Tina? When it went in. We had been doing claiming business for the same way for 100 years. And you know, these guys didn't want to change. But it's been a benefit for their business, because when you go to the claim box now, you have relative certainty of what you're getting on the track.
We really haven't been involved in claiming. Kind of our attitude is let's bring people into the game. Let's, you know, buy yearlings. When a great while, we'll do a 2-year-old in training. And let's hope that we hit at least, you know, a single and get the horse to the race. Let's, you know, try and win a race or two. Every horse that we buy, we're hoping they might turn out to be good enough to run in a New York bred stakes race.
Yeah, I mean, claiming, as I said earlier, is very important to this business, but you know, we use it as a sort of as an exit strategy. But one thing that we do make sure of, any of the horses that we bought as yearlings, we have a stamp on them, make sure they end up in a nice home. We keep track of them. You know, we're fortunate enough, the partnership base that we have right now are a lot of horse people themselves. They grew up in the horse world, show jumping, polo, whatever it is. We actually have about a list of 5 to 8 people right now waiting for our horses that retire off the racetrack for another vocation. And thanks to our host, her mom has one of ours in Connecticut right now that we brought out of Puerto Rico. And you know, like Jack said, we're not looking to compete in the claiming level. It's important to be involved in it, though, because it is the meat and potatoes, and we're trying to create value, as Jack does, by these yearlings, create stallion prospects, of which we've done 14 times in our last 40 years.
But each of you are involved in syndicate partnerships, which is such a big piece of the sport right now. And maybe Tina, we can start with you, because I want to hear points from all of you on this. What are the benefits of being involved in a syndicate, especially with how much more prevalent we see partnerships in racing right now?
I think it's a great way to start out. It's fractional ownership at a fractional cost. You get to see if you really enjoy the sport. You get access to the backstretch. You all have to be licensed. You just learn all about the sport, and I think that you're not going to go in over your head of where you want to be. Start out small, experience it, and learn about the sport, and build from that, one step at a time. And I think that way you're going to be happy and you're going to learn an awful lot.
Okay, so I'm a little different. I only have 3 guys. After years and years of this, there's only like 3 guys I'm willing to partner with anymore. However, what we did do through NYTHA, through the Horsemen's Association I'm president of, which is anyone here in New York who's an owner or trainer, you're automatically in. We created something called the Empire Racing Club. Aaron Yagoda here is one of our main guys. He loves the attention. And what we've done, because we're not looking to compete with other owners, what we're doing is we give everyone the opportunity to experience what ownership is like, right? For a basic fee, I think it's $500, you get to go to the winner's circle, you get to do some Zooms with the trainer, you get to go in the paddock, and you get a sense of what it's like. But the whole idea, as Tina was saying, this is the first step, right? If we're successful, we now create owners who can either partner with others or be owners on their own. And that's what we're trying to do to support our trainers.
Well, I think that, thoroughbred racing is the only sport where you don't have to be a millionaire or a billionaire to play at the highest level of your sport. And as I said, we've been fortunate to, twice to be able to achieve that. And it's a minimum buy-in to participate in our syndicate and a lot of other syndicates. And the sky's the limit. But it's the day-to-day racing, the excitement that we have, particularly when we've got a horse that's running here at Saratoga. We do all the things that Tom Durkin had mentioned in our commercial. Aftercare is a big thing for us. We support old friends at Cabin Creek every time that we purchase a horse. And we have people that go out, and we have a retired horse out there. So it's all part of really enjoying the game, learning the game. And we've had a few people that have graduated and become, one person's become a breeder, he bought a farm. We have other people that individually have bought horses. But it's the camaraderie. And I think more than anything else, it's having the opportunity to share all of the thrills with a like group of people that really enjoy the sport, and it doesn't cost a fortune to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the partnerships are the wave of the future, of the present. It used to be Cock Campbell who was, the innovator of partnerships. It was Cock Campbell and Centennial back in 1986. That was it. And I don't know how many partnership organizations there are now, but the good thing about it is everyone's a little bit different. There isn't a same business plan. If you ask any person here that's in a partnership, I guarantee you there'd be one or two different things that stands out for each partnership. And that's the neatest thing about it, is there's so many opportunities and levels, and you just got to do your due diligence. As my father said, anybody can go buy a racehorse. It's just the fact of the matter is, you got to do it with people you're confident with, people you like, people you have fun with. And as Jack said, it's a learning curve. We've had a lot of people come in for 4 or 5 years, learn about it, go out on their own. We actually have a farm. One thing that we're proud of is we have our own farm in Virginia, and we'll take partners' horses in that are doing things on their own, and so it's a learning curve, and we're fortunate enough. The hardest thing in this business, I realize, is keeping the new people in, and the best way to do that is educate them as best you can right from the beginning, and either they stay in with your partnerships or maybe go out on their own, and the bottom line is to keep the owners here, and we need more of them.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the business side of racehorse ownership, and whoever wants to chime in on this. Why is it so important for a racehorse owner or a syndicate to have a business plan? And what are some of the drawbacks and things that you've noticed of individuals maybe going in without a plan?
Well, Saratoga Stable is kind of unique. I think as many of you know, we only buy New York breds. So that is our business plan. We go to the sale here, the New York bred sale, Fasig-Tipton sale. It's kind of our premier sale where we purchase horses. We have one trainer, Barkley Tagg, has been with us for about 20 years. Barkley and Robin Smullen, his assistant. They're our bloodstock advisors. So we're really a very small, close-knit business plan where we focus on what we want to do. We've been very fortunate to have a couple big successes, but we also have a lot of fun. And, we've got, I think, 13 states where we've got owners represented now. So it's not just New York, but they've bought into the fact that, having a business plan that just really focuses on New York breds gives you a real chance for success. Thanks to Joe and the leadership we've had here with NYTHA, purses in New York are great. As he said, changes in the rules. There's a lot of support for New York breds, and going forward, that's where we're going to stay.
I think business plan, this is a high-risk business. And the only way to mitigate risk is through diversification, whether that's through investing in in partnerships, if you're going to do it on your own, at what level you feel comfortable at. And, that's the biggest thing is you don't invest. This is discretionary income. If you want to have some fun, I sort of like it to buying a $50,000 boat. The one good thing about this, between this and a boat, is as soon as you hook that boat up to the trailer, it's going to go down in value. At least with this, you got a chance of making your money back, or at least breaking even, or you're getting a portion of it. I mean, the movie that we watched last night was a perfect quote by Todd Pletcher. You're really successful knowing that you're losing 75% of the time, and you're still successful with a 25% win rate. And that's at the top of the game. So, as Jack said, you got to have fun with this. But the business plan is you have to feel comfortable investing discretionary income that you are probably going to lose. And the good thing is, which I don't think is emphasized enough in this business, is there's some very good tax advantages. And I have found a lot of partners in Centennial have continued to stay in this business with the accelerated depreciation and the tax benefits that this industry provides people. And I think we need to emphasize that more as part of our business plan to everybody that's thinking about it and that is in this industry.
I couldn't agree more. Len Green, who's a panelist, he'll be here tomorrow to speak, and I think he'll be here at the dinner, has been our accountants for probably 25 years. Anyway, he has written up in Thoroughbred Daily News all about the tax advantages, and that's a big plus. Don's right. That's a big plus to think about it. To have a business plan with bond racing, we own 50% of every horse, so we have a business plan. We advise new people to come in to say, you know what, if this is your first time, pick out a filly, because maybe something in that filly's line and their pedigree, or if she gets lucky enough to win a stake like Giacosa, you're going to have residual value. And residual value is great because when you buy a horse, what you should be thinking about is when you're going to sell the horse, how you're going to make money on this. So with a filly, you've got a shot, whether she's successful on the racetrack or maybe there's something in her family that pops up. And then you can take her to a sale when she's done at the end of her career, and hopefully there's enough residual to sell her. But that's what our business plan is, especially for first-time partners to get involved. It's to pick out a filly and give yourself a chance to make some money in this game.
I got to be honest, I don't know if I can add much more. I thought all three of those comments were good. I would just, why do you have a plan? You have a plan because this is a hard game with a lot of difficult decisions that you're asked to make. What to buy, where to race, whom to hire, whom to fire. And when you have a plan, those decisions are a lot easier, right? Jack's got a simple plan. I buy New York breds. He doesn't have to go to 10 other sales. He goes to the New York bred sale and finds his horses. It just makes things a lot easier in a very difficult, complicated world.
I think a question that comes up a lot with ownership is the cost of a horse in training. And does it vary state by state, as you mentioned, trying to find the right people to add to your team? So maybe for those that are newer into the game, that's usually a question that's there right off the bat. What are some of the costs?
Well, it's a very expensive game, particularly in New York. When we talk to prospective owners, and our current roster of over 100 owners know that, it is a very expensive game. When we're racing, probably have a horse in training 10 months a year, we'll try and often give them a couple months break during the wintertime. You're looking at a minimum of $50, $60, even up to $70,000 for a horse, which means even with the good purses in New York now, you've got to win, a race, have a couple seconds, thirds, in order to even break even. But, as Don pointed out, there are tax benefits, and you can't buy the excitement of being in this sport. Believe me, particularly racing at Saratoga, you get in a winner's circle, that's worth an awful lot of money.
The sun came out when you said that.
Yeah, I agree with Jack. We figure it's about $75,000 a year to keep the horses competing at the New York level. And, part of our business plan, if you will, is to compete here because we're trying to build stallion value. And we still believe that in order to create that stallion value, you still have to be competitive in the Grade 1 races in New York. There's things that you can look at when you're doing your plan and your budget too. Is you have insurance you can consider. We insure all of our horses for mortality, and that's just to protect the upside if you get a good horse that you spend a lot of money on as a yearling. That's one thing that you can sort of fudge on if you want to, decrease your expenses. But it's always been a problem here, especially in New York, with workman's comp and things like that from the trainer's side. And I know NIFA and NYRA were all working consistently to try to reduce the insurance costs for the employees and the trainers, and which could help. But on average, it's about $75,000 to $80,000 a year.
I want to do one more quick question maybe on this side because I think it's important. Our last panel talked about acquiring racehorses, and we mentioned advisors a couple times, and I know some of the people on this panel are really involved in the process of choosing horses, but how do you surround yourself with that team, picking out advisors to help you acquire racehorses?
Jim and I have been doing it a long time. We go to the sales, and we've been doing it for many years for Mr. Clifton, Mr. Rudder. So I think everybody has their own way of doing it, and selection first is on what you're interested in as far as pedigree, and pedigree still tops everything. And then when you go to look at a horse, you need to look at the conformation and then go on. So we use different people after we select horses to go, vets to go through their x-rays to know what we can live with and what we can't live with. And then we'll measure, you can measure hearts, you can measure spleens, you can measure everything but desire. Quick little story is several years ago, we were over here at the October sale, and we picked up a weanling for $5,000. And it had a little problem that we knew that we could manage and live with, and that little $5,000 weanling's name is Rinaldi. So you can get lucky, but you have to surround yourself with good people at the sales and know what you're looking for.
Yeah, I would say two things. First, caveat emptor. For those of you who forget 9th grade Latin, buyer beware. Okay? I would 100% go on relationships. My feeling is, and this is what my partner and I do, we buy horses for ourselves, we buy horses for others, we break horses. You want to go with people who are recommended to you by other people that you trust, right? So that you can establish that sort of relationship. I think that's critical. The second thing that I would do, and I think the individuals are relatively unimportant. They won't like to hear that. But there's a lot of good agents, there's a lot of good people, a lot of trainers who know how to buy horses. But I think we were talking about business plan before, this is critical. What's your plan, right? Are you claiming horses? Are you buying babies? Are you buying yearling? What are you doing? Because there's different people who are really much better at some of those than others, okay? Right? If you're going to get in the claiming game, you want to get with a trainer who is invested in the claiming game themselves, right? But that trainer may not be the best person to go buy a weanling for you, because that's not what they live and breathe and die for. But there are other people who do that. So I would work that into your business plan.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, we have simplified it very much. Barkley, Tagg, and Robin Smullen, who have decades of experience with horses, they're our bloodstock advisors. They go to the sales. The only role that I play is we'll go through the catalog initially and look at pedigree. We're always looking for success on the dam side and stakes winners in the first or second generation. That's kind of a cardinal rule that Barkley has brought to us. And we're always, again, focusing on New York breds. Barkley has one of the vets the earlier panel talked about now, that vets that are just sales vets. And Barkley has somebody who he's worked with for a lot of years and has a lot of faith in. And then sometimes we'll talk, there's this, that, or the other thing that, is there, but, Barkley will say, we can live with this, and we'll then make a decision we're willing to bid on that horse. A lot of it, at the end, though, a typical sale over here, we might end up with 8 or 10 horses that Barkley and Robin like. We'll have them vetted, and we may end up with 4 or 5 that we would bid on.
As Joe says, you got to figure out what you're doing. A trainer, a claimant trainer, is not going to go, probably pick out a weanling or yearling. And when we put this together, we were focusing on yearlings. And again, just to go back to my background and Dad's background, the veterinarian advisor that we have now, Dr. Carr, he played polo in Aiken, South Carolina, so we knew him through the polo world. Alan Jerkins, we used to play polo against on Long Island, so we figured if we were going to give a horse to a trainer, we might as well try Alan. We heard he was pretty good. So, it's sort of all who you're comfortable with, and we have our own program in Virginia, and, so we've kind of set out a niche in this business, and again, it's worked, and, the previous panel mentioned one thing, and I think the look of eagles and being involved with polo, the polo horse itself, they're all thoroughbred. So I've been around it, Dr. Carr's been around it. So the way we work is Dr. Carr and the woman that runs our farm in Virginia will go to the sales a day or two ahead of myself, and my partner Peter Horvitz and his wife come along afterwards once Steve and Paula put a list together. At this sale, we'll probably have 12 or so on a keeper list, and then all of us will go through that keeper list and narrow it down to 4 or 5 horses. And, you got to stick to your budget. That's part of your business plan. You put it down on paper, and you got to stick to it. And again, there's certain ways you can maybe enhance your buying skills, but one quick story, my father, figuring his first 2-year-old sale, he was going to do something really smart, and he took Secretariat's stretch run at the Belmont and put it on computer and worked with the professor at MIT, and we filmed every 2-year-old at the sale that year and got 3 of the best ones that matched that stride. Well, none of the 3 even started. So everything doesn't work, even you think it might, because as they said, as Tina says, you can't judge this and you can't judge that.
Some terrific insight from our panelists.